What's up, everybody?
What up, though?
Coming to y'all after our women counterparts had their own episode of the Grit. It was the Girl Grit. The Girl Grit. We wanted to bring y'all the Guy Grit for this week. You know, and they had a great conversation, basically centered on the movie Acrimony and just relationships in general. And as we were discussing, as Tristan and I were discussing potential show topics for us and what we wanted to talk about. Everything revolved around this concept of the 30 wall. And it's an interesting concept. You know, the 30 wall is this concept or this idea that once you hit the age of 30, as a man specifically, you basically just start to have that, early midlife crisis almost.
This life just kicks in and just kicks you right in the behind and say, look what you did or look what you didn't do.
So it's basically that sort of figuring out of where you want to go in terms of, career, friendships, relationships, the whole nine. And it's really figuring out who you are as a person and how you basically going to spend the middle of your life, because for the years prior, you go through, I feel like our life, as men goes in stages, women too, but I can only speak from a male's perspective. But, our life sort of goes in stages, right? Like, I feel like at 20 years old, we feel like we have the world figured out. We know how the next 50 years of our life is going to be. Mm-hmm. We're going to have fun in our 20s.
Boy, did we.
We're going to get our education or master whatever skill set we have, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur or, starting a trade, learning a trade, or whatever we're going to do. We're going to do that between the ages of 20 and 25. We're going to build that foundation for the rest of our life. When we get to 25, we're going to land our dream job, right? Land our dream job, do everything that we know we're supposed to do.
I was asleep for a long time for that dream.
And then, like, by the age of 30, right, we figure we probably just met the woman of our dreams. Mm-hmm. We're gonna, we're well into our career. We're established. We are, top of our profession. And then from then it's marriage, kids, and just continuing to prosper, right? I think that's the vision that we build for ourselves at 25 or at 20. At least that's what it was for me. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew when I wanted to get married. I knew when I wanted to build my life and everything from there, Doesn't always happen that way.
No, not so much.
I mean, what about you? What would you say are sort of those steps or those phases to before you hit this 30 wall?
Well, my point of view is it doesn't really go in like fives, like you said, like 20, 25, 25, 30.
Okay.
My rule of thumb is life goes in cycles of 7. So from, 1 to 7, you're learning and figuring out the world around you, your early childhood development. Then from 7 to 14 or 8 to 14 or what have you, then you're starting to get into, okay, well, I'm in that borderline between pre-adolescence and just coming from being in single digits.
Right.
So then you go from, 14 to 21. Okay. So you go from teenage years to, finally adult. But see, then you go from 21 to 28, but you've still been trained mentally. You've been a teenager for all these years right here.
Then 15 to 21 stage.
Yeah, so then you have to try to figure out how to be a young adult from 21 to 28.
Right.
And then from 28 to that point, that's when life starts really kind of kicking you behind or what have you, and you're thinking you should be here at this point, you should be here at that point because society tells you you need to be here. You need to have this degree, you need to have this job lined up, you need to have this family. Right. Society, you ain't got all the answers, society. Just saying. I'm just saying.
You ain't got the answers,
society. You ain't got the answers, society. Everybody talks about, man, well, they say that... Who is they?
Who is they?
Have you ever seen they before? Can you tell me who they is? I'm just curious.
What DJ Khaled say? No they.
No they.
Yeah, we don't want they. Stay away from they.
Stay away from they. I don't want their problems from they.
No, but I think it's interesting again because, up until that age of 30, we're still trying to figure life out. Even after, you and I are, we're barely on the other side of the 30 wall, right?
Barely.
Like maybe a month?
A few months.
Something like that. Maybe a couple years. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, but, so we've been there, right? We've established some coping mechanisms to get over a lot of these problems or issues, or not even problems or issues, but just pivoting through these thoughts that we have around this age. And so, for me particularly, I had just a lot of different phases that I went through. Again, at 20, I knew what I wanted to do career-wise. At 25, I had, I graduated from college at that point. I was entering into a relationship. I should say I was in a relationship at the time, and I was pivoting into that critical 25 age. And I think for me at 25, that was at an age where I said, all right, I need to do a little bit of reevaluating, because the 5-year goals that I set for myself at the age of 20 weren't being fulfilled at the speed at which I wanted them to. Right? So if you go through things for a couple of years and you're still not hitting the goals that you personally set for yourself, and again, they probably are influenced by society, right?
Yeah.
But I think the goal, if you haven't set them, you kind of reevaluate. And so that's sort of the angle I took at 25. Okay. I reevaluated a lot of things. I reevaluated what I wanted to do career-wise. I reevaluated what I wanted to do in the relationship that I was in. And so shortly thereafter, I wound up getting married. I wound up going back to school and setting some new goals for myself that I was fortunately able to hit by the time I turned 30. But even when I got to 30, I was still telling myself, like, all right, I've had success in these goals, but even where do I want to go from here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because at that age, I feel like you're starting to get set in your ways, right? Like you've experienced, like you said, that 22 to 28.
Yeah.
By the time you hit 30, you're hopefully done figuring out a lot of things that define who you are as a person. Not life in general, but who you are as a person, right?
Yeah.
And so when you hit that age, I think it's from there you decide, all right, do I go full speed ahead, step on the gas in the direction I'm headed, or do I try to pivot while I'm young enough, still impressionable enough, can continue, like I feel like I can continue to learn something new. And so all of those questions went through my head at around that time as well.
I can attest to that being the same experience. Well, I mean, for me, I'm going to remix Mike Tyson's saying a little bit. Everybody has a plan until life punches you in the mouth.
That's true, man.
Because my whole thing was, when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to be a performer. Like, there was nothing else really on the menu. It was one of those things where, okay, I'm going to school, I'm going to college, I'm getting this degree because this is what my parents want me to do.
Right. It's the backup plan.
The backup time, Because, like, I went to the school of performing arts. I already knew what I wanted to do in high school. I knew I wanted to act, and I had this plan as to what I was going to do to get to that point. Once I actually got to the point where I finally graduated and I'm getting ready to move to California, then I get the phone call, you about to be a daddy. Wait a minute.
So basically, life hit you in the mouth.
Bam! With the uppercut. So it was one of those things where you have to adapt and adjust to the situation around you. So at that point, I couldn't quite, go to California, because that was my plan. I planned on going to California. I was going to be a starving actor, whatever it was.
Yeah. Working to make your dreams come true.
Working to make my dreams come true. But instead, I have a lovely daughter, and with that, everything around me changed. Like, the whole mentality changed. It was like I had to grow up way faster than what I expected to.
Right. And what age were you when you had your daughter?
25.
25. 25. That's what I was saying.
I see what you
know what I mean?
I see what you did there. So yeah, I was 25. So at that point, I was like, man, I gotta get a real job. Because at the point in time, I was dancing and hip hop dancing and performing and everything at different spots around Michigan and teaching, and it got to a point where I'm like, okay, well, I need to actually have a real job. I need income. Right. I gotta get the kid together.
Because again, prior to that moment, you were experiencing success in your field.
Yeah.
In terms of, you were booking gigs, you were traveling around the state and even the tri-state area, doing a lot of things professionally in your career to build up that dream that you established for yourself. And sort of that, like you said, the 15 to 21 age. You know what I'm saying? And again, life happens. Life happens.
But with that change, though, came an even greater even greater change that I would have never expected to happen. It was like I I actually got a chance to go to grad school, which I never thought that would happen because that was never in my plans.
Yeah.
But not only did I go to grad school, but I got a pretty good job as a case manager at one point, got my master's degree, and everything kind of went full circle because it's like now my daughter is older and now I'm still performing. So now my daughter sees me performing and she's like, oh,
yeah,
my dad's kind of cool. He actually does this and that and this and that. I want to do that too. So now it's kind of like I get to be an influence on her with the performing arts as well.
But again, like you said, you got a little older, so that came around that 30 wall, right?
Yeah, that came around.
Where you reevaluated because in that 25 to 30 range, or even the 22 to 28 range, is when you said, all right, I got to readjust. I'm not going to be the performer right now that I want to be because I have other priorities that I need to take care of. So you kind of shifted, adjusted. And then that's when you kind of fell in love with the IT situation, right?
Yeah.
And then you had to readjust even then because your love brought you back to your original love.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, but it's funny how all those things play into each other, man, because even with me, when I was 22 and just about to graduate college, that's when I had my first child. And so...
You graduated 22?
I graduated at 22. Barely.
Barely.
But... so from 22, like you said, actually 22 to 28, at sort of 28, we had that moment, that you talked about where I was trying to decide what I wanted to do in terms of, I was in a career, I was enjoying my career, but I was trying to decide, like, am I going to stay with the same company for the rest of my life? And, at that time, my wife and I were talking about expanding our family.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So, like, at what point did you realize, like, this was the person that you wanted to marry?
At what point is a difficult question, man, because, again, I knew my wife and I dated for almost 5 years before we got married, a little over 5 years before we got married. And I knew that she possessed all of the qualities that I was looking for in a wife, right? But from a guy's perspective, I wanted to make sure, and we had a lot of outside pressure. 5 years is a long time, supposedly, to date somebody before you marry them.
According to society.
Of course, those are societal influences that are pressuring the situation. You know what I'm saying? But we were together for 5 years, and again, she possessed the qualities I knew I was looking for in a wife. But whether it was subconscious or conscious, I can't really tell because I don't really remember. Okay. But there were things that were telling me, you need to accomplish certain things before you make another person's happiness, another person's well-being, your responsibility. You know what I mean? And that's not saying like a woman is a man's responsibility. Don't take my words that way. But what I'm saying is, for a man and a woman, when you become one in marriage, y'all are now each other's responsibility.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to make sure I was at a point where I was stable enough to say, okay, I can be responsible for someone else's life. You know what I mean? In the sense of, we need to create happiness and joy together. We need to create a foundation of love for any other human beings that we bring into this world. And there were just so many things that I wanted to make sure were set before we, before we committed our lives. Because, to me, it's till death do we part. Like, you know what I mean? So that's just what it is. Like, if anything happened, we getting some counseling and we working through it, But for me, it's till death do us part. You know what I'm saying? And so, so it's just, so that's kind of what it was. Again, it wasn't like a, oh man, it wasn't like a red light that went off in my head, like, she can do these things that I desire, so I need to marry her now. No, it was like, personally, as a man, I feel like I need to be at a certain place in order to do it. And that's not to say that we can't build together, but it's to say I need to have all my ducks in a row before I am, again, just responsible for another human being. You know what I mean?
I can wholeheartedly understand that. Because, me and my baby talk about marriage. And I'm at a point where I'm in the career. I think I'm in the career that I want to be in.
Okay.
But I slowly but surely found myself going back to my roots as far as like being a performer and all this other good stuff. So I'm at another transitional stage where, okay, I'm at this point, but I'm still trying to get to this point. And also on a mental level, besides the financial level, just wrapping my mind around, okay, well, I suffer from OCS.
OCS?
Only child syndrome. So I like to be by myself a lot.
Okay.
So, trying to get married, I know that's not necessarily something that can be done quite often, or is it?
We have our alone time, but
Okay.
generally speaking, you can't just be like, yo, it's time for some alone time. Like, you need to be gone now. You know what I'm saying? That's not really acceptable in a marriage. You know what I mean? So yeah. So if like you say, if that's how you feel, then you probably aren't ready to get married right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's something that, you know what I mean. It's every person is different.
Okay.
And if you feel like that, where you just gotta escape at times, then advice from brother to brother.
Oh, okay. I don't know smoke.
Wait till you grow past that point before you bring somebody else on board with you, because what's ultimately gonna happen is that other person is just gonna be unhappy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They gonna get to a point where they like, but we supposed to do this and this. And you're like, yeah, I understand that. However, I got OCS. Like, we can't just bust down my walls, my personal, you know what I'm saying? Like, me being in my OCS, I'm in my happy place when I'm alone, when I don't have to deal with the stresses and the rigors of the world. And that's not saying you as a wife will potentially be a stressor on me, but it's just saying I find extreme solitude or extreme gratitude in being alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like not too many husbands or wives are going to be understanding of their partner if they don't want to be around them for a certain period of time. They're going to look at themselves and be like, what am I doing wrong? And it's not an indictment on that other person. It's just, that's what makes me feel comfortable and whole and happy.
This is just who I am.
Right.
This is, so that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And that stuff I got to work past.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might not be even you working past. It might be an issue of, all of us go into relationships with things about ourselves that the other person has to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, my wife had to adjust to the fact that I'm 30 plus and I still like to play video games and watch comic book movies.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying? And that's not like a characteristic of, you a kid because you like to do those things. It's like, no, that's how I de-stress. You know what I'm saying?
And for us, a lot of people don't realize this. This is a generational thing.
Exactly.
Because like our parents, they didn't really have like for real like the arcades and all that good stuff.
Right,
they maybe had like the pinball machines or what have you back
It's Pac-Man.
But for us, like our parents may have like the pants that come up to here with the whispers, mustache, and the slick hair or whatever. I know my dad do.
Yeah.
But that's a generational thing. Like I know my dad. Like I've never seen my dad in jeans before.
Yeah.
That's a generational thing. So for us, we grew up with, Nintendo and Sega Genesis and that stuff that we learned from early childhood that we carried with us into adulthood. That was our foundation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and for me, like, you know what I'm saying? I know people in my pop's generation, man. One of the ways that my pop spent time was he went to the gambling joints. You know what I'm saying? Where it was basically just somebody's garage where they went and played poker and shot dice and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how they de-stressed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, if I don't have to leave the house, look, you can be over there on your laptop reading your book, but you got to deal with the fact that I like video games and I'm a extreme sports junkie and I like comic book movies.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And those are just the things that we have to deal with at this 30 wall, basically. It's like, even while we're in relationships, it's like you got to learn to adjust and pivot, because I had to adjust to the fact that, my wife has to go get her nails done or has to go get her hair done every so often. I'm not used to having that as a necessity prior to me getting involved in this relationship, but it was things that I had to adjust to, you know what I'm saying? Or even spending holidays away from my family so we could spend them with her family. Those were adjustments that I had to make. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you an easy way how to handle that situation. Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Rock, paper, scissors. Use my scissors.
Real quick little anecdote. No, I'm not gonna tell. I'm not gonna tell that.
Now, what you not gonna tell?
Oh man, it's tough. It's tough. But all right, her family might hate me for this, but
okay.
Do you remember seeing T'Challa on Black Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
So my mother-in-law is of the Caucasian persuasion.
Okay.
And I was extremely triggered when T'Challa talked about unnecessary ingredients and underseasoned food.
Okay. Did she put raisins in it too?
So I went to my in-laws' house for my wife and I's first Thanksgiving together.
Okay.
And my wife was insistent upon going to help her mother in the kitchen. And I was like, no, don't go help her. Just, she thrives on like having all of her kids here for Thanksgiving and Easter. Those were the 2 holidays that my wife got to take. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, leave her alone, babe. This is what she said she wanted to do. Just let her do it. If she needs help, she'll ask and we can go accommodate. But let her do her thing. My wife was like, babe, I know Thanksgiving is your favorite meal of the year. Let me go help my mom. And I was like, babe, just don't stress your mom out, okay? Just stay in here with us. And she was like, all right. And a couple of her siblings laughed at me. And I was like, why y'all laughing? Why y'all laughing? Why y'all laughing for? And so, they're slowly bringing out the food to the buffet table. And my wife, as gracious and as wonderful as she is, was fixing me a plate while I was watching the football game. And she said, babe, come here for a minute. I was like, what's up? She said, what you want to eat? I said, just whatever you put on my plate. And she was like, babe, come here real quick. What do you want to eat? And I got up, walked over to her.
She throwing you the warnings.
She was throwing me the warnings, man. That's another reason I knew I wanted to marry the lady. But she was like, taste this dressing real quick. Mm-hmm. And so she grabbed a spoon, gave me a bite of the dressing. It was a little crunchy. I said, what is this?
Crunchy dressing.
Crunchy dressing, man. Her mother put water chestnuts and raisins in the dressing.
In dressing.
Yo, I was so disappointed, man.
No.
I was so disappointed, man.
I'm disappointed, bro. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have a drink when you run.
That was probably the most nefarious of crimes that she committed on that lovely Thanksgiving day, which is supposed to be a feast of all feasts.
I don't even know what nefarious means. That sounds really bad. Yup.
It was bad, man. So I gave her one more opportunity the next Thanksgiving. We did go into the kitchen and help.
Y'all help this shit.
We got there
early. Let me get all this salt and pepper.
We got there early, and we sort of commandeered the kitchen and was like, we got it. And she walked in, mother-in-law walked in, and was like, what can I help with? I was like, it's a watermelon over there in the corner you can slice up. So we delegated responsibilities to make sure that the festivities weren't ruined. And so that was, again, that's the story of the last Thanksgiving we spent in my in-laws' house.
Fair enough. That was the last supper for real.
Yeah, but no, just to get us back on track though, man. Back to this whole 30-wall concept, man.
Yeah, man. So I got a marriage question, another marriage question for you. Okay. So it took you and your wife a while to get married. Mm-hmm. So I know you said that you got a lot of negative responses or a bit of scrutiny, from that. So,
when you gonna marry her? From everybody.
Yeah.
Her parents, my parents, her siblings, my siblings, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate that because it's one of those things. It kind of reminds me of college. Okay. I'm turning to the camera on this one. So here's the thing. You come in as a freshman, you have these ideas that you want to do and what you want to be when you grow up. And then as time develops on, certain interests change or certain goals that you have change before you decide to get to graduation. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, you might switch majors and you might not graduate in 4 years, or you may not be engaged in 4 years or 2 years or whatever the case. But at this point, you guys are still learning each other, so you're getting to the point where you're going to graduate to the point where you can say, hey, I have my ring or my degree. But then it's one of those things where people will keep asking you, and asking you, when you gonna do this? When you gonna do that? When y'all gonna have a family? When am I gonna get invited to the graduation or the marriage? Well, let me ask you a question. Did you go to school? I'm just saying, because people are quick to always tell you, when you gonna graduate? When you gonna get your degree? Well, did you graduate after high school? Did you get your degree?
This is the Tristan that most of us know and love. Yeah. Speaking right now.
Yeah. So it's one of the things like, how you gonna tell me to get my degree when you ain't even got your degree? How you gonna rush me on something that you ain't even got?
Yeah.
So until you can give me those tips on how to graduate, society, leave me alone.
Yeah, no, it is interesting though, man. Like, you know, my wife and I were friends for a while before we got together. It wasn't even on some, you know, like, you know, sometimes you enter into a friendship with a motive. It was straight platonic, man. And then we just hit it off one day. Okay. It was on some real random type stuff on a Christmas Eve when I was going to travel back home. And I hit her up like, hey, let's grab lunch when I'm going through your city to go see my parents. Okay. And I thought I was just going to stop for an hour. We were going to have lunch, chat, and then I was going to be on my way. And that 1 hour lunch turned into like a 4 hour lunch.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then, yeah. And then as soon as I got home, I blew my family off and talked to her for the rest of the night. I got home, you know, drove about 3 more hours from, you know, her place to my parents' place for Christmas. And man, I set up talking to her from about 9 o'clock Christmas Eve until about 5 o'clock Christmas morning. 5, and you know, the rest is history pretty much.
But isn't that interesting, like how your lady can like be your homie and your lover too?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I got friends that I've known from, you know, each of those 7-year intervals. Some of which from the very first one, from 1 to 7, that we supposedly ride or die, so to speak. I'm talking none of them, half of them no more.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, I guess, from what we were talking about in regards to like hitting that 30 wall, I've noticed that like a lot of my friends from college or from that very influential age of, you know, 21 through 28, or even a little bit before then, maybe like that, I would even say maybe like 18, 19.
Yeah.
I think those are like some of our most influential like friends at that point to guide us or be with us into the person that we're supposed to be. Absolutely.
Because you and I have been friends for almost 15 years now, or more than 15 years now.
Dang, man,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the same with that one. No, but it's just interesting, like you said, man. I mean, you develop these relationships with people in whatever stage you're at. And I think a lot of people stress about these relationships, right? I think in those blocks that we talked about prior to hitting the 30 wall, I feel like people have these goals and expectations for themselves. Like, if this person hasn't been the type of friend that I expect, then I'm cutting them off when we're this age. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of that whole 30 wall. Like, when do you turn a corner? When do you say somebody is a good friend or not a good friend? When do you say, I've invested much more in this friendship than the other person has, and it's time to cut them off? And I think all of those things, man, sort of happen when we dissect and look at our lives at certain points, right? Because you start to think about relationship, career, even where you're located geographically and if you want to be there. You know what I'm saying? And then you hit that whole, well, okay, then you take a look at your support system. Yeah. You cut off friends and family around certain ages.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not just usually it's not just this person offended me in some way, so I'm cutting this one person off. Usually people cut off several people at one time because they're dissecting something about their life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Projection.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, and those things happen, again, I feel like, at least they did for me, at these different intervals in my life. When I said, I need to make some sort of significant change in my life. And so I made that change. I made those series of changes by basically cleaning my house in a number of different ways. You know what I'm saying? Whether, again, it was cleaning my house in terms of getting rid of toxic relationships with friends and family, whether it was, you know, shoring up my relationship with my wife through some sort of commitment, either verbal or nonverbal. Whether it was even checking my own spirituality, you know what I'm saying? Because that's another aspect of the 30 wall. You know, whether it's God, or whether it's through yoga, or whether it's through, you know what I'm saying, science or whatever. I think that's one of the characteristics of, like, you know, self-reflection.
I can see that.
Yeah, so all of these things we begin to question at certain ages, man. And I think 30 is when you say, all right, this is going to be my last significant one for a while. You know, you might have another one at 40 because people look at 40 like, man, I'm old now. You know what I mean? And they look at 40 as like, everything I don't have in order, I need to get in order ASAP. Yeah. You know what I mean? But at 30, when you hit that wall, it's like, I don't have things in order, but I still have time.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, because you figure, all right, I ain't too old to find somebody. I ain't too old to have a kid. I ain't too old to, you know, switch careers and do all of these things. You know, and so people try to get all of that figured out by that 30 wall or shortly after that 30 wall, you know? Yeah. And I think we're here to say that, like, that 30 wall exists throughout your 30s. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't hit it, climb over it, and then it's in your rearview mirror the whole time. Yeah. Like, you hit it, and then it's still another speed bump. Like, that next wall is, like, Trump is building that next wall. Trump is building the next wall. You know what I'm saying? So that wall is there. You know what I'm saying? It don't go nowhere. You could try to bust it down, try to get around it, and you might be successful. But it's always going to be something, man. Whether it's a friendship, a relationship, a marriage, a career, education, some type of something is going to pop up, man, and we got to overcome.
True. I mean, that's just life in general. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where, like you said, the 30 wall isn't just the 30 wall. It's just the mental perception of being 30 and I have to have this together, because there are people, excuse me, that are late bloomers. Because there may be people that went to school, got their degrees, may or may not have actually gotten into their field, and then just turned around and was like, you know what? I don't even want to do any of this anymore.
Exactly.
I don't even want to work in corporate anymore. I want to start my own business. Yep. And flourish way more than they could have ever thought in their 30s. You know, or it could have been somebody who was married and got divorced.
Right.
You know, and then at that point in time, it was like, oh man, I had everything I thought that I wanted. But then, you know, reassess. Yeah. You know, and then you get to a further point in life and realize, oh, well, maybe I didn't marry her for the right or wrong reason or what have you, but maybe this next person could be the love of my life, because that can happen.
And then, like you said, you take everything you've learned up to that point, pivot on it, and reapply it in a different manner. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, one of the things you brought up was whether you follow the traditional path or not. Yeah. You still start to reassess. And again, you hit that point when you know, are nearing this age, this pivotal age of 30, and you say, do I want to press forward full speed ahead, or do I want to explore something that I haven't yet explored? You know, and there's that pivotal age for that as well.
All right. And I think, like, for the people that are stuck at that 30 wall, so to speak, I personally have adopted, like, the Army's motto. I never served in the service, but I love what they had to say. And theirs was improvise, adapt, and overcome. I think those are really good principles to kind of have, you know, because you're going to have adaptability in life. There are going to be things that you're going to have to just wing it. You know, some situations are going to come about. You just like, I didn't see that one coming. Oh man, they took my student loans away right when I was going through grad school. You know,
man.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Been there. I've cried in a couple financial aid offices in my day. So it's gonna be some hard times. Yeah. But you're gonna have to learn how to adapt and improvise, and then also ultimately you're gonna overcome them. But also a good one, the best one, is also to pray. I mean, I got to put that one first in the forefront, because many prayers have helped me on many different occasions. But, you know, definitely those 3 Army adaptations would work as well. Yeah, and I mean, I think prayer comes with all of that, right? You're right. Because, you know, everybody comes from different walks of faith. But personally, you know, my faith background says to pray and then execute. You know what I mean? It says faith without works is dead. So you can pray, but if you just sit there and pray, my God is not going to reward you for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's a matter of pray. You know, instill your faith in something, but then you gotta move, you gotta execute, you gotta work. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have ambition, and that's really what adulthood. I mean, the whole theme of this whole 30 wall, right, is it's the growing pains of adulthood in all walks of life.
Yeah.
And so, the thing about growing pains is that even when you're hurting, you don't stop growing. And so that always has to be your motto. You know what I'm saying?
That was deep.
Nah,
That was deep. I see what you did.
I see what you did. Yeah. But I mean, that's the truth, though. You know, even when you're going through pain, you're still growing, and you just have to understand that as a person. And it sucks when you are hurting. You know, I had a friend today tell me that she was just going through some things, and she cried. But when she cried, she was just like, all right, I got to be a G about this, because if I keep crying, nothing is going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So let me cry. Let me wipe my tears. Let me, maybe take a shot. And then let me live life, because that's the only way that I'm going to overcome. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a great motto to live by, man. Like, expect that you're going to go through hardships. Expect that life is going to hurt and kick you where you don't want to be kicked ever. But what's going to happen? How do you respond to it? How do you grow? How do you adapt? How do you continue to inform or, just overcome those issues and obstacles that exist? And, that brings us back to even the name of this show, The Grit.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to have grit in order to overcome. And, this 30 wall is a serious thing, as proof by our conversation here. We done been through it.
Absolutely.
We still going through things, and everything isn't roses and sunshine once you get past 30. But it's also, I've been living it up, man. I've been enjoying life in my 30s. It's been tough. It's been some trials and tribulations, but overall, man, I've been having a good time in my 30s, man. I've hit the stage in my life where, me and my wife are settled into our marriage. I don't want to say we're getting used to the idea of being married, because I think when you do that, it becomes stale. But we still date each other. We still have fun with each other. Even in my career brings different challenges and opportunities all the time, and I fully embrace those. And so, I'm looking forward to that next phase in my life where I got to adapt and readjust, because I've seen the fruits of my adaptation and readjustments at this 30 wall. And I figure, man, look, that didn't do anything except prepare me for the next big challenge in my life when I got to overcome.
Well, all I can say is I take my 30 wall brick by brick, or so to speak, day by day. Every day is something new. Every day is a new challenge. Every day is a new lesson. Every day is something learned. So something different about me today than it was yesterday. And it's always constant self-improvement, whether it's mentally, spiritually, financially, physically. So every day is just it's a new day.
Yeah, man, you mentioned physical, man. That 30,
man,
that physical part of the 30 wall might be the hardest to adapt and overcome too, man.
Man, I got my pain relievers out in the car. Joints don't operate like they used to. I told y'all, I used to dance. I used to dance.
Man, I remember Cat Williams in his most recent special said, man, when you're 19, you could go play basketball 5 or 6 hours, get hit by a bus, and hop up and be good the next day. But when you over 30, man, you stretch the wrong way and you be in a full body cast. Like, what happened to you? You all right? Yeah, just yawned a little too hard yesterday. So that physical wall is the one that you got to do a lot of adjusting to. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but man, it's all great, man. I'm glad we got a chance to have this conversation, because it is real, man. A lot of people go through it. So, we just wanted to impart a little bit of wisdom and knowledge that we have stored away from our experiences, and just impart that upon everybody else. And we would love to hear what y'all have to say about y'all own personal 30 walls, man.
Comment below, please.
Comment below, whether it's about relationships or, the careers, because I know everybody, man, we millennials, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we our parents, where we get into a job and stay there for 40 years
50
and
years.
retire, and you know what I'm saying? So we always going through these career and relationship adjustments, man. So let us know, man. What was your 30 wall? What was the biggest aspect of your 30 wall? How did you overcome it? Be an inspiration to somebody else, man. Let them know, get them some advice, share your wisdom and knowledge with them, and just let us know. We looking forward to hearing what y'all got to say, man.
Peace.
This has been the guys' version of the grit.
Grit, B.
We out.